Maria, and it's just Maria today because my partner in crime, Gina, unfortunately couldn't join me today, but she is actually watching us, I'm sure. Reflect and Reset with Maria and Gina. And today I have a special guest for you. As you know, we are on a mission to get information that is valuable to you and your family. And we have Melissa La Cuentera. Did I say it right?
Lara Cuenta.
Lara Cuenta. I told her that I probably will butcher her name and to say it right for me, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Tell us a little bit about you, Melissa.
Okay, I am a born and raised New Yorker. I am Puerto Rican. I was born and raised in the Bronx. So all of my work, but whether professionally, and I've lived almost all of my life in New York City. And I have 2 children. I have a husband. I have a really busy life. Yes, I have a very full life.
Does.
I have a very full life. Yes.
And we've gotten to know you because we are thinking of working together. She's a psychologist and a professor, as you've seen on the post at Fordham University. And part of the beauty of having somebody like you, because you are mission driven. I know that you were looking of ways of working with community members, right?
Yes.
And figuring a way out. Talk to us about that.
So I have 2 different missions, professionally speaking, and one of them involves my position at Fordham University. I coordinate training for budding psychologists, and we were looking for opportunities to be able to provide more mental health services to people in the community, in particular people of Latino or Latinx origins, and beyond that, trying to push in more culturally sensitive types of interventions. So I reached out to you because I wanted to try to see if we could coordinate some opportunities for training, in particular because we have a lot of students that are really interested in this kind of work, and then our relationship has just blossomed.
I know, and so I have to thank Dr. Reinhardt because he actually was at one of the shows with us, and somebody that I know I respect tremendously, and he made the connection because everybody knows that at Formé, Gina and I are really dedicated to figuring ways that we can help our Latino community as well. So we are working together and trying to create the program where we will have the students here and be able to really offer the mental health component of health at a very affordable price, because that is one of the issues that mental health has become unaffordable for many people, like regular medical services too.
Medical services across the board, and in particular mental health services. One of the major barriers is cost. It can be very cost intensive and really prohibitive. So one of the ways of trying to provide more creative types of services is trying to collaborate to have students providing service, and trying to establish collaborations across different types of professions to see if we can try to help more people.
Yeah, it's beautiful work. I mean, I personally, and I've said this before, I tell people I'm an open book. You know, I think it's important to be authentic, especially someone like Gina and I. We're very authentic because we're talking to you and we want you to know about us and learn from our experiences. I said it before, you know, I went to therapy for 6 years, and for me, it was life altering. I mean, I know that I am a different person today because I have the wisdom to be able to get help, because I knew that I could not do it by myself. And a lot of people think that they can, but you know, that is not the case. You guys are expert.
Mm-hmm. And it's human nature. We all need connections to one another, so no one can do it by themselves. It's unrealistic. And that's why we have professionals that are trained professionals, but there is a lot of stigma around going to see someone, going to see someone that you don't know, and telling them personal things about yourself. That can be very daunting as well, and that's another reason why a lot of times people don't choose to look for a therapist, or even if they have access, they're afraid.
Yeah, that is. So we were talking before that your specialty is between kids ages.
Yes, my specialty is about ages 9 to about early 20s at this point. I think more so because I've been seeing children for so long that early 20s, late 20s has become my specialty, because I've seen people that come in and out of therapy at this point. Sometimes there's a few people that I've seen since they were 13, now they're in their late 20s, so if they still need a little bit of support, maybe they come in once a month, maybe they check in every 6 months to let me know, how things are going. Sometimes they'll report some of their family members. I've seen whole families, I've seen siblings. I really try to provide services that are supporting everyone, not just the individual, but everyone that's involved in the family or friends or whatever it is that I can do.
I know that, I just heard even of a case today where, yesterday, where somebody that I know ended up having a sister that actually her husband sort of lost it, and he tried to kill his kids. So it's something unthinkable. And I want you, my son and I were having breakfast yesterday, and we were talking about this. Could that have been prevented? Could that mean, how is it that some people get triggered and they lose it? What do you think about that?
It's a complicated issue and question. I think that there are moments where people have been holding things in for so long and have experienced such dire circumstances and dire situations, and then maybe have some ongoing mental health issues as well that haven't been addressed. It's almost like a balloon, and you blow air into the balloon, and then you continue blowing air, The balloon can only take so much air before it erupts and before it explodes. And I like to use that analogy to talk about mental health as well. As human beings, we all have limits, and there's only so much that we can take. So for example, with something like that, usually when someone in a moment loses it, there's been a lot of things that have been going on that have been kind of leading up to that moment. Whether things can be prevented or not, it's a really complicated question. We would like to think as mental health providers that we could be a part of that. And it's a very complicated issue.
How do we get people to speak more, in search, seek for more help?
I think one of the greatest ways, in particular with social media now, is for people to talk out loud about mental health, about their own journey with mental health, with going to therapy, and if so, for example, anyone that has become a mental health clinician, whether they're a psychologist like myself, a social worker, a licensed mental health counselor, we've all gone to therapy as well. And we should be talking about that. It shouldn't be a secret. It's not a secret when you have strep throat and you go to the doctor and get an antibiotic. So there should be nothing secretive about seeking out mental health help when you need it. So I think one of the greatest things about social media at this point is that this is a great platform for people to talk about these things. And the more that people talk about them out loud, it doesn't become something that's a secret and people aren't afraid about it. They can talk out loud.
That's why I love bringing psychologists. I've had quite a few psychologists in the show, because I am such an advocate for mental health. Because like I say, personally, 6 years of therapy for me were instrumental. And even when I was going through a divorce, my son Franco, who's 34 now, and he was 4 years old, I ended up seeking help because I did not know how to deal with him. He was struggling, and I had no clue how to be a better mother and be able to support him and not get frustrated, because he was choking me. I was like, oh my God, this kid wants so much attention that I didn't know how to handle it. So I ended up getting a child psychologist that helped us, and I did this for about 2 years. So listen to this. I went 6 years prior to, and then I go 2 more years. So there is never a wrong time to do this. We need to figure out, when we are at a point where we feel stuck and we cannot talk to a family member, but even a family member, sometimes they don't know how to guide you, because we're all broken.
Of course. We all need someone that's neutral, someone that has no place in the situation to talk to, so that they can really give you an opinion that has nothing to do with their own issues and everything to do with you. and everything to do with what you may need as a person, as a human being, as a spirit, and someone that can help guide you on your own journey that has nothing to do with theirs.
Yeah. How do you know, I'm very big about reparenting yourself, because I feel that our parents are, you know, people that are broken, right? And they haven't passed. And I always, like, even with my own journey with my mother and my father, like, I tried to be sensitive. At some point in my life, I decided, okay, I'm going to be sensitive to their childhood, because if I look back, my mom had a really rough childhood. And then she tried to be the best mother that she could be, but there was a lot missing. Now, I have been reparenting myself and going through really a journey where I said, I love my mother for all the positive that she brought, but I also want to understand and be aware of all the negative that was brought, and I don't want to pass it along to my children. I want to break that cycle. So what do you think are the best tools for us to start reparenting ourselves?
I think one of the best tools, and this is coming from a psychologist, is starting therapy. It's going to therapy. Because I think that initially, if you don't do that, it can be very hard to do without someone to support you with that. And I think one of the other tools that's really important is meditation and mindfulness. I think that it is something that cannot, there's no other way to do that. Another form of that can be prayer. Prayer is a form of meditation. Engaging in certain types of prayer, just to try to pull inward and center oneself. A lot of times, that's when other thoughts kind of come up. That's when a lot of epiphanies come up. That's when those aha moments come up. You can also do that during exercise. Some sort of exercise that is either running or yoga or something where you are doing something that is very rote, so very similar to meditation. A lot of times there's a lot of things that can come up with that, in terms of a lot of feelings that can come up. In particular, if you have been holding a lot of feelings inside, a lot of times that's another thing that you can do. You have to do it regularly. So meditation, prayer, exercise, if you're going to engage in that kind of activity, you have to do it regularly. So it has to be every other day to really kind of get the benefits of that. And that journey is about starting to open up some of the wounds that you haven't wanted to open up. And once you start that, then you can start to repair.
And you have to confront the pain, right?
Absolutely. You have to learn how to sit with the pain. And that's harder for some people than others. And it's very hard to do alone. So therapy is really key to kind of try to help support that, because if you talk to a family member about pain, what they want to do is make you feel better. And what they want to do is say, oh, it's okay, everything's fine, everything's better. And sometimes that's not what you need. What you need is someone to say, wow, that was terrible, and I'm really sorry that happened for you. And that can happen in therapy.
Yeah. And then the guidance of how to start rebuilding
Absolutely.
your life, because we all have to do that. You know, awareness is something that unfortunately, because you need to confront pain, many people just go unaware. It's like you have, you know, this side, this something's driving you, but you don't want to bring it to the front, because if you do, it's too painful to do.
And it's human nature. No one wants to feel pain. Right. Everyone wants to avoid pain.
Are we feeling pain, right?
Every day.
We say we don't want to feel pain, but ironically, then you have anxiety, then you suffer depression. And because you don't, so you're dealing with maybe a gradual pain, but then you just, because confronting, and believe me, I've gone through that process, you know, confronting everything that happened to you, and it is so painful. And you can go through, you know, months of dealing with this pain, but then you start creating the right stories. You know, you start rebuilding your stories and feeling better.
It's kind of similar to when people start exercising, and initially when you start exercising, everything hurts. Your muscles hurt, your joints hurt, it's hard to breathe, it's hard to catch your breath, you're sweating, and then over time, it doesn't hurt as much anymore. And over time, you start to feel stronger, it's very similar to therapy. You have to get through and be able to sit with the pain to feel stronger and more self-assured. And it's the same thing with working out and with exercise. Your muscles get stronger.
We have a question.
Yes. How can men get over that hump and seek the help they need?
That is a really good question. I think that there's two things to say about that. One is that I think that our society has to change around how we talk to men and how we teach men how to communicate their feelings, because at this point in time, the message is you have to be strong and stern and not show your feelings. So I think
men don't cry.
Men
right?
don't cry. Yes, exactly. And that as a society has to change. But until that shifts, and I have seen that shift a little bit over time, it's starting to change.
I agree with you.
Yes, I think that the second part of that is to try to find someone that you can communicate with, that you don't feel any kind of shame to express your feelings with. And it doesn't have to be feelings of sadness. It can be feelings of happiness, of enjoyment, of excitement, of anger. And that could be a friend. It could be a romantic partner. It could be a therapist. And finding a therapist can be challenging, but I kind of liken it to dating in that you have to find someone that you connect with. So when people are looking for a therapist, feel free, I do it all the time when people call me, feel free to call therapists, to interview them, to ask them questions, to see if you would be a good fit for one another. You can schedule an initial appointment just to, almost like a first date, to see if you have a connection and if you feel comfortable. And just feel free to explore that.
Yeah. So what do you see? Is there a reoccurring theme that you see on the kids that you actually at the different ages? Like, is there a theme that you're seeing?
The main theme, actually, ironically, is similar to something that you said earlier. The main theme for children and adolescents is that they are very angry that their parents are not perfect and have done things to hurt them. And they are either very angry about it or very sad about it. And what I try to get them to understand and to move through and to accept is that their parents are not perfect and they're doing the best that they know how to do, and that maybe I can try to support their parents to do a little better in terms of supporting their needs. But one of the first steps is just accepting that your parent is a human and that they're going to make mistakes, and to be gentle with them the same way that you want your parent to be gentle with you and understanding with you. It's important to be gentle with your parent as well. And that's a recurring theme throughout any child that's come into my office. There's some sort of either anger or sadness around their parents not being perfect.
I joke around that I've gone through so much therapy that I am my own therapist. At this point, I honestly feel like I've gotten to the point where I understand what triggers me. I understand I have tools that I've obtained from therapists and from books. Like I was going to ask you, I'm very big into now reading. I listen to Audible books.
Yes.
And I was going through, unfortunately, a second divorce. I joke around that next time that I choose the person, it's actually a committee that's choosing the person, because obviously I seem to have problems. But that's, we are not perfect. We're talking about that, right? So I've seen, I had to go with my daughter. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she was struggling, for the first year or two, having to go to her father and me, and we are splitting. I have her on Monday, Tuesdays, and then he has her Wednesday, Thursday, and then every other weekend on Friday we are switching. So it's a lot of switching.
Yeah.
And she goes from her father and her father's family. They have a different style. Not that it's right or wrong, but we are very different. And I'm seeing this kid, I feel bad for her, because it's like she has to adjust to me and then adjust to them. And just when she's adjusting to me, she has to go to them, to her other family. So I decided to listen to a lot of Audible books on parenting from the inside out, positive parenting, playful parenting, and I've started to educate myself and try to figure out different ways. So do you advise people to do that type of?
Absolutely. Websites, podcasts are great because podcasts are very short. I recommend podcasts all the time, in particular because most parents are working and they don't necessarily have a lot of time to maybe sit down and read a book or to listen to an entire Audible book. So look for podcasts on parenting, on positive parenting, there's a really great book, what is the name of it? The Whole Brain Child. The Whole Brain Child is an excellent book about understanding.
I'll be listening to that.
About understanding the intersection of brain development and just kind of like biological development and also parenting and how you can adjust things according to what your child may be going through biologically speaking. It's a really, really great user-friendly book.
I'm going to.
And he has Dr. Stein. He has a really great podcast as well. So yes.
Before you leave, I definitely want to get that
I will
information.
Give it to you.
Yes.
And then the other kinds of work that I suggest that everyone that I work with either listen to or read is just stuff about kind of like being okay with yourself. So Brene Brown is very, very popular and she's amazing. She has a Netflix special right now that's about vulnerability and shame and connecting to yourself and other people, as well as a website and a couple of books that are really good as well. So absolutely.
That would be great. You know what? We'll also try to write it on the post so that people can have a link to it. And we put this on our website. Many of you might know already that you can go into our website and be able to listen to our shows, watch our shows again on the news, on the Formé Medical Center. And then we'll put links there. So this is an opportunity to really get information. And I get so excited when we are sharing with people so much because I don't think people realize all that is out there, all the resources, all of the tools that you can utilize.
And in particular, with social media, with the internet, everyone has a phone, so in less than 5 seconds, you can just click on something and have a wealth of information. And it's not just information of experiences, because a lot of times the information you take in makes you feel something. I mean, there can be moments and there can be just a word or a phrase that you read or hear, and all of a sudden it makes you really have a moment where you are very thoughtful. So absolutely, I think that as many resources and opportunities for feeling and for change that we can provide is great.
Yeah. I think, I always say that people, you have to dedicate, like going to the gym,
Yes.
It's like, it's your brain. What are you going to do for your brain? What are you going to do for your soul? What kind of life do you want to live?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going through anxiety, if you're depressed, and believe me, depression, there are people that need extra help.
Absolutely.
And they need medication.
Yes, absolutely.
But you got to take action. You got to take action. You should not just be okay having anxiety. You should say to yourself, what is it that I need to do to get rid of this anxiety? I don't want to live my life this way.
And what's interesting? There are a lot of people, in particular recently, people that I've met in my practice that didn't realize that they had anxiety until something happened, and then they stopped and they said, "Oh my gosh, I've been living with this for years, and I didn't have a word for this. I didn't know that this is what that was." And they didn't figure it out until they went to see a therapist, until they went to their doctor for a physical. And when the doctor was asking them specific types of questions, they were having some medical issues, and they didn't have a medical cause. It was caused by anxiety and stress.
Yeah. I always say that new parents should go through therapy.
Absolutely.
And that is something that should be completely implemented.
And it should be required.
It should be required.
It should be required.
I'm in agreement with you, but we need to become more advocate for mental health, and I know that it is inaccessible to many people, and that pains me because I know that a lot of people are out there walking in tremendous pain, and even if they want to get help, they can't because they cannot afford it. And even if they go to different clinics that are nonprofit or government agencies, that they could end up being on a waiting list. Imagine you know, you realize you're depressed and you have to wait for months.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out a way to change that. And I can tell you that we are creating a nonprofit here that's called Promise to Aid. We're waiting for the 501c3. Promise to Aid hopefully will be, definitely by the end of the year, we're going to be raising money for Promise to Aid. And the idea is that Promise to Aid will help people in need, either mental or health needs, that they're going to we are going to be able to have the means of paying for them to get the help that they need. And I mean, Gina and I have this vision that we want to create a mental health center at Formé that is part of, you know, our mission, because it's not just taking care. I think the mind, actually, I think you should begin with the mind, don't you?
Yes, I agree.
And I know you're a therapist, so
of
you
course
know,
I'm going to agree.
a little bit biased, but it is a reality. If you don't have a healthy mind, it affects your body.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even, I mean, on the medical end of things, so for example, if someone has diabetes and they're depressed or they're anxious, they're more likely not going to follow the nutritional diet that they need to do, take their medications as they're supposed to, exercise as they have been recommended, because they can't do it because they're too anxious and depressed. So everything goes together. We're not just a mind and we're not just a body, we're both.
Yeah. Meditation you mentioned, and I want to mention it again because I have been actually meditating for over a year now, and I do it consistently every morning. I use an app called Calm.
That's the app I use as well.
You use that? You get the message every
Absolutely,
morning?
yes. I do it every morning, and I recommend it to every single client that I work with. We do it in session, or I send it to them and I remind them.
It just reinforces, you know, the habits that I created. And for the parents that are out there listening, listen, your kids are watching you. So you are the example. I can tell you that my children, well, they're not children anymore. I have Franco and Jeffrey, and even Natasha at 11. I have meditation sessions with her. And Calm actually has.
They have kids meditations and kids sleep stories. My kids love them.
Yeah.
My kids love them. They have their favorite sleep stories that they request to listen to. There's also a really good book that I used to use with them when they were a little younger. They don't use it anymore. Called Good Night Yoga and Good Morning Yoga. That incorporates some very gentle, child-friendly exercises, and also has a meditation that you read to them at the end, which is really, really great.
That's awesome.
And you can incorporate it into your regular bedtime routine with your kids, and then eventually, so my kids are older now, they're 7 and 4, and now they read it to me at night, and then it becomes something that you can kind of connect over.
That's pretty cool. The mission is, and the vision, I can tell you for me, is that you really take all this information and that you start taking action, because without action you're going to continue having the same results. And you know, when you're looking at your 24 hours, and I repeat that message constantly, because I say, if you're not getting results that are making you happy, then take a look at the 24 hours. How are you spending it? And then start taking actions that are going to create habits that are going to lead you into a positive results. And with your children, they're watching you. So make sure that you realize sometimes we need a catalyst, right?
Absolutely.
To say, okay, you say it's enough. I don't want to live this life. I don't want to be this unhappy. I don't want to be depressed. And the catalyst might be your children. So if you are concerned that you are, the way you feel, that you're not happy, that you're feeling depressed, that you're feeling anxious, and you have your children, and you want to make sure you don't pass this along to your children, then take the time and start making the changes with you so that you can lead now into the rest of the family.
And the reality is that children don't learn by what we say. They watch what we do, and then they do what we do. So even if I say, don't be better than me, don't do what I do, they're going to continue the same pattern. So you have to change yourself, and then your children will change with you.
That's a great message. And we're both parents, so we are on this journey to make sure that we continue creating better human beings, that we make an impact in our children, and then they're going to continue passing it along and taking our legacy in a beautiful, positive way. So with that message, I want to say thank you for joining
Thank you
me.
for having me.
It's
I really
a
appreciate it.
pleasure. I am excited about the journey that we're going to take together because I know we are going to do great things. So thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Oh, remember to like us. Ciao.